Good morning, everybody. Did y'all have a good weekend? You can hear me. You can answer me in the chat box. Make sure everyone can hear me. Good morning, Colton. It was fine. I had a good weekend. I could not get up this morning, but I had a good weekend. It was raining last night and I was sleeping good. Oh, the wedding was good. We had a good time. We went down Friday and got to see some family at the wedding that I hadn't seen in a long time, and it was just really pretty. And I was just really happy for them. They're a cute little couple. And then we went to see my brother, and we went to the zoo and all kinds of stuff. So we had a busy, busy weekend, and we got back yesterday evening and just crashed. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started today. It's Monday, but we're just going to roll with it, right? Hope everybody's had some coffee or whatever it is you drink this morning. Um, so we're going to talk about author's purpose today. And I love to read books of all kinds. I also like to write. I like to write stories and essays and poems. I just write about things that are going on in my life. One day I hope to write a whole book um, about my grandfather's life. My grandfather was a very interesting man and had lots and lots of stories of his journey over the years. But I do want to write a book about him, and I've got a lot of information started. I just have to put it all together. Um, but anyways, I like to read, and but when I was in school, when I was very young, I was not a big fan of reading. It really wasn't my favorite subject. And I always got put in, I don't know if when I was young and in elementary school, you always got put into like reading groups according to your reading level. And I was always put in the lowest group um, with the lowest group in the class. And my mom couldn't understand why, because at home I read all the time. We read every day, every night. And she talked to my teacher. She's like, I just don't understand. She reads fine at home. I don't, and she reads above her reading level at home. I don't understand what's going on at school. But they figured out that it wasn't that I couldn't read, it was that I couldn't pay attention. If I was supposed to be reading silently to myself, I have ADD really bad, have since I was a little kid. And so that was really hard for me because I was always paying attention to all kinds of things, not just what I was trying to read. But when I was at home, I would read out loud to my mom, and I didn't have any trouble when I read out loud. It's like I could focus on it if I was doing it out loud. But if I was supposed to be in class silently, reading to myself, I could not pay attention to that. And so they just thought I couldn't read very well because I couldn't answer questions about what I read. So once the teachers figured out that I just couldn't focus, then they started having me read out loud in class, or they would put me like off to the side by myself. And sometimes they would let me go like in the hallway to do my homework or whatever, my assignment, so I could read out loud. And the more I did that, the better I got at actually reading silent as I got older. But even still to this day, if I'm having a lot of trouble focusing because of my ADD, I will read out loud when I really need to. And so if you're having trouble with something like that, I do suggest trying to read it out loud if you're somewhere off to by yourself. It does help me focus a little more. But it just goes to show that everybody learns a little bit differently. Our minds work a little bit differently, and that's okay. Um, but I did start to realize the more that I read, um, that, um, so I'm the type of person that I pay a lot of attention. Like if you come into a room, I pay attention more to like your tone of voice, your mannerisms, things like that before I ever, your body language. before I ever listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth. I'm always sizing people up. I'm always like, hey, is this person trustworthy? What are they trying to tell me? Is what they're telling me true? I am always sizing people up and analyzing people, especially body language and tone, before I even listen to your words. My husband, he says that I'm like a walking uh, lie detector. He said I can read people very well. I just think I pay good attention to detail. Um, but anyways, when I figured out that reading is exactly the same thing, we're just analyzing the words. We're just analyzing the tone of the words and the things. We're trying to analyze if this is somebody that we can trust. What are they trying to tell me? Is what they're telling me correct? It's the exact same thing. It's just in the written form. Okay. So if I were to come into you and just start talking to you, you're going to pay attention to all these clues and different things about what I'm saying. It's the same thing when we're reading. It's just a little bit different because it's on paper. So, but authors use all kinds of different tactics and things to help you understand what they're trying to get across to you. So once I realized this, reading became much, much easier. So I don't know if my experience helps you in any way, but I certainly hope it does. Because I know a lot of people have a lot of trouble with reading just because we all have a lot of people have ADD and focus issues. Other people just get overwhelmed when they start reading because they think, well, I'm not going to understand this, or I'm not going to remember, I'm not going to be able to answer questions. But it's just the same as if somebody were to come in and start talking to you. You're going to listen, you're going to analyze lots of different things about what they're saying. And it is the same thing in reading. So that is all we're doing. And authors always have a purpose for what they're writing. Okay. So they always have some type of purpose behind what they're writing, and it's always to get something across to you, the reader. So some of the reasons, or one of the reasons, I should say, that uh, writers write is to entertain. So they write all kinds of stories, books, short stories, essays to entertain you. They just write about interesting things, and things can happen in books and stories that may not happen in real life. Okay. So they're very imaginative. Okay. Um, they have all kinds of fantastical creatures in fiction books, like the Twilight Saga books. I don't know if any of y'all have ever read those. They're very good books. Don't let the movies turn you off. I love the books. The movies are just okay, but the books are wonderful. But they have all these fantastical things and creatures like vampires and werewolves that have extraordinary powers and strength and speed. In the Lord of the Rings, there's wizards, orcs, dwarves, dragons. So maybe you're not into Twilight, but some of you guys may like Lord of the Rings. Any of you guys read either one of these or seen the movies? Do you like Lord of the Rings? I happen to love Lord of the Rings too. My husband's a big Lord of the Rings fan. But lots and lots of things can happen in fiction stories that don't happen in real life. One of my brother's favorite types of books to read was always Westerns, especially Louis L'Amour books. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but in Westerns, people are always larger than life. They survive shootouts, they're left for dead and then come back. Um, there are all kinds of entertainment authors out there. So I love to read for entertainment. One of the best westerns I ever watched, and still to this day is one of my favorite movies, is Tombstone. I love Doc Holliday in that. I love how he's portrayed, played by Val Kilmer. But westerns are kind of like that. Like Doc Holliday, everybody thought he was, a goner, and he shows up in the end to fight for Wyatt Earp, his friend, and he's just kind of like on his last leg, but he's able to face off with, I think his name was Ringo, the other 6-shooter in that film. But it was a really good story. And I love the way Westerns portray their characters, like John Wayne and things like that. But those are some really good fiction stories and movies if you ever get a chance. Another reason why authors write is simply to inform you. These authors may write to talk about a real world topic. They usually give lots of facts and details and things like that. Many of our school books and the books that we use, textbooks, are just written to inform you. So most of the assignments that you've been given and have read have been just simply to inform you. They're informative texts. Another reason why writers may write is simply to explain things. So they're explanatory. A lot of self-help books would fall into this category, cookbooks, things like that, things that just explain something to you, the process, or how to do something. Those are explanatory text. Another reason writers may write is just simply to describe things. They often include short stories. They try to describe things better than a picture for you. So when we're reading, we need to be asking ourselves, does the author describe the 5 senses? Okay, what is he describing? Is he describing how things sound? What do they look like? What do things smell like? What do things taste like? What do things feel like? There's a lot of adjectives in this type of writing. It may be an essay about homeschooling being better than in-person school or vice versa. It could be political essays or short stories to try to get you to vote for a particular candidate. Could be to persuade you to save the environment, or to conserve water, things like that. Or it could be to persuade you to try some new type of product, candy, bubble gum, whatever it may be, to buy Nike tennis shoes. Those are all persuasive texts. Okay. I do have a little bit of a video about the main purposes, the 3 main purposes why authors write. So it's either to persuade, inform, or entertain. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and watch that real quick. And let me make sure you can hear my sound. There we go. All right, just one moment.
B-I-E 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 The author's got to have a purpose, got to have some pie. Persuade, inform, entertain. Don't forget to have some pie. B-I-E Some pie. B-I-E Today I'm gonna write something, but I'm not sure what to say. I must choose my words carefully. It's the only way to explain. Somebody say P. P is for persuade. It's the first letter in our pie. It means we've got to convince our readers that we know what we're talking about. Here's why. Because the author's gotta have a purpose, got to have some pie. Persuade, inform, entertain. Don't forget to have some pie. B-I-E Some pie. B-I-E Somebody say is for inform. We've got to teach our reader what we know. Inform means to educate. Our words will help the readers grow. Somebody say E. E stands for entertain. Our readers got to have some fun. Do you enjoy reading every single word you write? Chances are so will everyone. You see, the author's gotta have a purpose. Got to have some bite. Persuade, inform, entertain. Don't forget to have some bite. Some bite.
It's time to play Intent.
Sorry, I forgot to warn y'all about the cheesiness of that song. I usually give you a warning. It's cheesy, but it will stick in your head, so it'll be like an earworm for you today. But if you can remember PIE, P-I-E, those are the three main reasons that authors write, author's purpose. So either to persuade, inform, or entertain. So that acronym is a good way to remember that, PIE. And I've got another little video for you here. We're going to go ahead and watch that one.
It's time to play Intent or Eject, the game that challenges you to guess an author's intent. Guess right, or you're gone. Here's your host, Melanie Youngblood.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intent or Eject. Cindy, this one is for you. Tell us the intent the writer of this passage has. Americans throw away millions of plastic bags each year. Many of these end up in the environment, where they pose a threat to animal life. A plastic bag takes more than a lifetime to decompose. In order to cut back on this waste, you should take your own reusable bags to the grocery store. In addition to that, you can join the Friends of the Trail for a spring bike trail cleanup this Saturday at 8 a.m. Okay, Cindy, what is the author's intent?
There sure are a lot of facts in this passage, and a lot of statistics. But the author also suggests to us what we should do. So I'm going to say the author is trying to persuade.
Let's find out what author Arlene Brown has to say.
I definitely want people to take action on the issue of plastic bags, so I'm trying to persuade them.
Nice work, Cindy. Lou, here's your passage. Ermine are members of the weasel family. The newborns are blind and helpless, but in 6 weeks, they grow to be almost adult-sized. In the summer, the top of the ermine's coat is brown. In the winter, its coat is pure white, and yet the tip of its tail remains black all year. All right, Lou, what do you say?
Okay, there are definitely a lot of facts in here, just like in that last passage. So I'm gonna say persuade also.
He says persuade, so let's find out from Dr. Eugene Conway.
I've studied the ermine my whole life. I just wanted to teach people about them when I wrote this, so it is basically facts. The only purpose is to inform.
Oh, Lou, you got it wrong. Do you know what that means?
Oh, yes,
Well, that's the name of the game, folks. Guess the correct intent, or you're gone. We'll see how Marie does with her passage just after this.
Pie in minutes, Mrs. Miss Pie. In minutes, in just 10 minutes, you got it made.
10 minutes in the microwave or 20 minutes in an oven.
Pie in minutes.
And you've got a tender, flaky crust brimming with lots of luscious fruit.
Mrs. Miss Pie in minutes.
Isn't it nice to have pie this good, this fast?
Pie in minutes, Mrs. Miss Pie in minutes.
Now back to Intent or Eject, the game that challenges you to guess an author's intent. Guess right, or you're gone. Here's your host, Melanie Youngblood.
We're back, and we've got 2 contestants remaining on today's show. Marie, it's your turn to guess the intent of the writer of this passage. Lila was doing dishes when Jake came in the room. She noticed immediately. "Where's the watch I gave you for your birthday?" she asked. "Did you lose it already?" Jake looked flustered. "Oh, the watch," he said, trying to buy time. "I was going to look for it, but I just couldn't find the time." Okay, Marie, what do you say?
This is definitely a story. We learn about what the characters are thinking and feeling, and the last line is a pun. I'm gonna say the author wants to entertain us.
Let's find out from writer Martella Waters.
I've been writing stories about Jake and Lily for years. Lily is always getting mad at Jake, but then he makes these puns which make her laugh. It's very entertaining for the reader.
You got it, Marie. Okay, Cindy, we're back to you. Here's your passage. Hiking in Hawaii can be adventurous, fun, and exciting. There are trails for beginners up through expert hikers, and the beautiful weather means every day is a great day for a hike. You must check out the great vacation specials available right now in Hawaii. Come for a hike and stay a while.
Wow, I never realized Hawaii is a great place to hike. I really enjoy hiking too, so I will say the writer is trying to entertain us.
She says entertain. Let's hear from author Leilani K and find out.
This passage is just to let people know about the amazing hiking trails in Hawaii and hopefully to persuade them to visit. That's why I mentioned the great deals on vacations.
Oh, usually when an author is trying to entertain you, they may tell a story or appeal to your imagination. So, sorry, Cindy. Do you know what this means?
No, please, no!
And that means Marie is today's big winner. Marie, we'll see you again in the Tournament of Champions. The rest of you, tune in next time as 3 more contestants get strapped in to play Intent or Eject.
It's time to play Intent.
Okay, did you follow along with those? Did you have them right? Or do you think you would have got ejected like, oh, poor Cindy? Poor old Cindy. Were you able to get them right, you think? Sometimes it can be a little confusing, but some of them are pretty entertaining, even though they're meant to persuade or something like that. So usually if they are mentioning some type of product, like in the case of the Hawaii one, you know, they were check out our specials, stuff like that. If they end it with something like that, it's usually going to be persuasive. You can usually tell as you're reading along, like what the author's opinion is, or what they think. Let's see. All right, we're going to switch gears. And we're going to talk about, now that we know why authors write, right? It's either to persuade, inform, or entertain. We need to ask ourselves, what is his or her point of view? So in literature, point of view is who is telling the story. So it allows the reader to see the thoughts and feelings of the characters. So we have first person point of view. That is when the narrator is telling the story, and the narrator, the person speaking or talking to you, is one of the characters also. Okay, so they're in the story and they're telling you the story as well. Point of view, the signal words to look for would be I, me, we, and us. That's the way they speak. Then we have third person. Third person is when the narrator, the person telling the story, is not a character in the story. The narrator might reveal thoughts and feelings of one or all of the characters. So that would be third person, told by somebody outside of the story. Some of those words to look for, the signal words for third person point of view, are going to be he, she, it, hers, him. They're talking about somebody else, right? It's not I, me, we. Okay. In other types of text, such as informative, persuasive, like scientific and historical text, the author's point of view would be his or her attitude towards the subject. So a writer may choose not to state his or her point of view or their opinion, but the language that he or she uses will usually reveal their point of view. So, like I said, you can usually tell how in persuasive and informative text how the author feels about the subject. So first of all, when we're reading, we have to determine the purpose of the writing. So why is it written? Is it written to be humorous, scary, angry, sympathetic? Is it a serious tone? Then we look for the style of writing. So is it descriptive? Is it narrative? Is it a spoken or written account of something? Is it expository? Does it expose something? Is it just meant to describe something? Or is it meant to persuade you, right? Or just simply to instruct you on how to do something? This is what we need to be looking for. This is what we have to figure out when we're reading. And then we always have to identify the main idea. So what is the text usually about? Okay, so those are the things you're looking for. What is the point? What is the main idea? What type of text structure is it? Is it descriptive? Is it chronological? Things like that. And is it persuasive, or is it just meant to entertain or inform you? Those are the things we have to be thinking about so that we can understand what we're reading. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about is primary and secondary sources. So primary sources is something that is a piece of evidence that is created by someone at the time of the event. So this could include letters, diaries, photographs, could be government records. Autobiographies are always primary sources, speeches. So in other words, something that comes straight from the horse's mouth, okay? A secondary source is going to be information that's created by someone who was not present at the time of the event. They created it after the event from other sources. So some examples include newspaper articles, textbooks, biographies. Biographies are about someone else's life. That would be a secondary source. Documentaries, TV documentaries, photographs that are not original, that you didn't take yourself, that you got from some other source. Encyclopedias, dictionaries, those are all secondary sources. So primary, you get it straight from the source or straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Secondary sources would be sources that came from someone or somewhere else other than the primary source. Okay. An example of that would be, say if I was home and I had a tornado go through my neighborhood, and the news crew comes out, say 5 News comes out, and they want to interview me about my experience in this storm, and I give them an interview, okay, and I tell them what happened. So my interview would be a primary source, but say, and they air that interview on TV, and then say a newspaper or a website picks it up and they write an article based on my interview. Well, their article is going to be a secondary source, okay, because it didn't come directly from the source, which is me, my experience, okay? Does that make sense? Another example would be like a speech, say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite, or his famous speech, I Have a Dream. If you were there, his speech would be a primary source. If you read about it in a history book or in a newspaper article, that would be a secondary source. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so we are finishing up our lesson early, so we're going to do some homework early. We're going to have extra time today. So today we are on class 5. So in your Google Classroom, you're going to scroll down to class 5, November 18th. That's today's date. And you've got a few assignments. You've got a video to watch on the true story of Three Little Pigs. You've got determining author's point of view, which is what we've been talking about, and then primary and secondary sources. And then you have a common lit assignment, which is also on point of view. And just remember your PIE, P-I-E, either the purpose for the author's writing either has to be to persuade, inform, or entertain. So you might want to jot that down. Anyways, if nobody has any questions, I'll let you go ahead and work on your assignments today. If you're ready to go do that, you can type your name in the chat box and go to work on that. And we will meet back at 11 o'clock. So you will have extra time. If you have extra time, I know a few of you are behind or got started in class late. So please go and look at things that you need to make up and work on those with your extra time. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys here in just a little bit at 11. Thank you.